Afternoon, all. Welcome to episode 4 of the 2B podcast. I'm your host, Kyle, and I'm welcomed by one of my friends, another fellow podcaster, Ryan McCarthy of the One Talk podcast. I won't take too much of your spotlight, brother, but let us know who's Ryan McCarthy.
Hey, brother, thanks for having me on. I'm super excited to be here. We did a podcast together on mine, so it's cool now to come on yours and have another epic conversation. But me in a nutshell, I have the One Talk podcast. I have One Talk clothing as well. I have a branch of events and the workshops that I run through One Talk. The whole base of what I do is around mindset and mental health. Just be able to give value to people and help them give them the tools and resources necessary to fulfill their potential, find the success that relates to their own values so they can start living the best life possible. I've also worked full time in the mental health sector for about 5 years as well through multiple roles. So overall, very passionate about mental health and helping people.
Awesome, man. Awesome, man. And let's so how have you, so mental health side of it, how have you found that working in your space you've been doing for a few years now? So how have you found that?
Well, I'm 26 now, but I started working in mental health when I was 20 years old. And I was very fortunate at the start that I had a mentor in the space. So my team leader for the organization I was working for, he was a very much like, he had a similar personality to me, but he had so much experience in the field. He was able to guide me through the process of making sure that I prioritize my own well-being, make sure that I look after myself. Like he always made sure personal life was first and you make sure you put yourself first. And through learning from him, I've actually been able to spend like this last 6 years without actually having any like serious challenges within my own life, like on a emotional, mental level, because I feel like the foundation of having someone like a mentor to guide me at the start, and then me just to continue learning throughout the process and making sure that when the signs come up, when the red flags come up, when I'm like, okay, you need to stop, you need to breathe, you need to reset, I'm able to pinpoint those signs out and able to process.
Yeah, awesome. And like like why I wanted you to come on in particular was because I know that your story is very I'll consider it very inspirational, and some people out there and maybe going through a tough time. And this podcast is sort of designed to allow people to become a better version of themselves because we get to create the life we want. So if you wouldn't mind sharing a bit about your story and like where you've come from and where you are now, because obviously what you're doing is bloody important, mate, especially in this day and age.
Sure, brother, no problems. I might go on a bit of a tangent, so feel free to stop me if I talk too much.
Oh,
So
good.
I'm originally from Liverpool, England. Moved to Australia in 2009. I moved to Queensland, and at about the age of 11, I got addicted to drugs. And the reason I got addicted to drugs was mainly because of a family breakdown. There's no stability in the house. I didn't really have any masculine presence, no guidance at all. So the age of 11, I found a crowd of people I could engage with and just have fun. But then that fun turned into taking drugs. So at the age of 11, I became addicted. And then throughout the next, let's say about 7 years, was just a whole whirlwind of shit. Like, because from 11, I got addicted. At 18 was when I finally got sober. But in that period, there was just so much happening that when I reflect back now, it kind of doesn't seem like I've even lived it because it's completely separate to who I am now. But when I reflect back on it, I think I was so numb back then. Because
Mm,
any single time like an emotion came up, it was straight away just take something, whether it's weed, whether it's pills, whatever it was I could get my hands on, just to
yeah.
numb any feelings. And I think, and I actually say this, like from 11 to 18, I probably had about 3 weeks in total where I was sober, like 3 different days put together, which led to me, getting in a lot of trouble. I got expelled from school. Got to the point where I was smoking ice and going to school like without sleeping. And I was just doing a lot of reckless things. And then when I was 17 years old, I went to schoolies, as most Aussies do, if you're from Australia. And this was my, like, at the time, this is like my big day to look forward to. I'm like, yes, I can go and abuse as much as I can and have fun and party. And this is like my dream at the time. So I went to schoolies. Anyway, I took a lot of drugs, a lot of alcohol, barely slept the whole week, barely ate anything. I came back at the end of the 7 days of schoolies and I was super thin, dehydrated. And I remember when I got home, I laid in bed and I was getting these really bad head twitches. Like my head was jolting, my body was jolting. That was the first ever time I was thought to myself, what is wrong with me? Like it's the first ever time I actually believe I had any somewhat sort of conscious thinking or any reflection back on myself was that time. And that after that was it triggered the train of thought for the next couple of months to find a way to quit. Because in that moment, I was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to overdose or I'm going to accidentally overdose. Like something bad's going to happen to me if I continue on this path. So for the next 3 months, I spent that time just trying to find the willpower to quit. It was like me saying I quit, lasting 3 hours back on it. 2 weeks later, lasting 3 hours sober, getting back on it. And then 3 months later, I decided, and I always say this, I don't recommend anyone doing this, getting sober, by the way. This is my personal experience. I don't advise people to do this because it can be dangerous. But at the time, my thought process was, what's the thing I abuse the most? Like, what's the thing as soon as I wake up during the day and going to sleep, what's the one thing I can't go without? And it's marijuana. And I was like, if I can quit marijuana, then eventually I'll be able to quit all the other drugs. So what I did was in February that year, I quit weed. And then from February to September that year, I decided just to abuse pills, like prescription pills, MDMA, pingers, like everything you could think of in terms of pills. And I just went even harder. But then for some reason, in the back of my mind, I was like, I knew I was going to quit soon. But this was just like a temporary thing to help me. And I think this was a bit of delusion mixed with that because it was another way just to enable me to continue addiction and continue drugs. But then on my 18th birthday, that was actually the final time I ever did drugs. I went out to the valley, as you do in Brisbane on your 18th birthday, took a lot of pills, and then I woke up the next day and I said to myself, I was like, this is going to be the day. This is going to be the day I quit. And then from that day forward, I've been sober, but it sounds good. But the following years after that was a massive struggle.
Mm. Yeah. So you'd be coming down from like, especially if you're doing it from the ages of 11 to 17, like your body be like, well, shit, this is not normal.
Yeah.
Like you've just gone cold turkey. And as they always say, like it's when someone quits smoking or something, it's like your body goes this reactive situation. Is that what you felt in those moments of like those next years after?
100%. Because from 18 when I got sober till about 20 were the toughest years of my life. Because the first ever time I actually felt emotions. Like at 18 was the first time I felt like what even anxiety was or what depression was. Like I must have felt it before that, but I had something to numb it. This is the first time where these things would come up and then they would just attack me. Then I felt like I had no control over myself. I had no control over my environment. And it made me very depressed at the time. It made me very socially anxious, which was not like me at all because I was very much the person who's always out and everyone knows me. I got to the point where my best mate will come to my house and I couldn't even leave my bedroom because I'd be shaking uncontrollably in my room from anxiety, suicide ideation and planning as well. And I just lost full control of my own emotional well-being and my own reality. It felt like at that time because it was the first time where I just couldn't numb myself. It's like I'm sitting with all of this suppressed emotion. I didn't know how to deal with it.
I just got goosebumps hearing that, bro. Like it brings me so much compassion for people that know the ramification of it and know like they need to change their life. So that's why I got the chills, because you had that moment where you realize like I need to change, otherwise I'm just gonna be dead.
Yeah.
And us men, especially us men, we go through this thing of life and we continually go through this thing of life until we get hit by a semi truck, and then we just eventually be like, well, shit, if I don't do anything now, like what's the point?
Yeah, 100%. And when we don't know how to process our emotions, I feel like us as men, and me specifically at that time, the main emotion that would always come up as my way to process was anger. So
Mm.
I always feel angry. I always was agitated about something. I was always frustrated about something. And because the anxiety would bottle up and it would just make me rage. Like, and I just didn't know how to put a cap on. I didn't know how to process it because probably up until the age of 19, I didn't even know what depression was. I didn't even know what anxiety was. Like I never heard about it before. And when I was experiencing these things, I thought I was the only one experiencing it. Because I was like, it's not even a thing. I've never heard of it before. But I feel like a lot of people can relate to this if they start feeling depression or they start feeling anxious feelings or the nervous system's getting jolted up or they're getting intrusive thoughts come up or they're feeling angry for no reason. They're probably like, sure, this doesn't happen to other people. I must be different. And then through that, you start to internalize it more, which makes you not speak up, which then feeds into the problem in the first place because you don't even know that this is a thing that other people experience. Then you just get so self-absorbed within yourself and it can keep spiraling down. So I feel like one of the most important steps to begin with is to actually talk to someone.
Yeah, talk to someone and be aware of it. Like you've got to be aware of it first. And for you, you've had that experience, you've become aware of it. And I always say, like, to people, like, it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel your emotions. I know myself, I can get caught in my emotions, as we all can.
Yeah,
But
sure.
it's just having the tools to get out of it is something that you only learn from experiences and learn from investing in yourself as well. So what are the going off that, what are the tools that you've adopted in your life now that's allowed you to get yourself out of those states?
Well, to begin with, it was like when I was in the moment where I couldn't leave my room shaking with anxiety, I was like, what's one thing I used to do in the past I could potentially do now? And I grew up playing soccer, like I love sport. So I was like, maybe I can go to the gym, some sort of physical exercise. And the beautiful thing about that, shout out to Joel from Average Joel's. He owns the gym there, but he's an absolute legend. He somewhat took me under his wing. And I'm not sure if he could see it within me that I was struggling, but I was struggling at the time. And he supported me a lot with getting to the gym and keeping me there and keeping me motivated and coming back and keep me accountable. So the first step with me was the gym. I feel like till this day, gym is still my, not gym, but like exercise in general is
Mhm.
still like my base for like my whole well-being. Like I feel like if I'm still doing some sort of exercise, like I can always stay on a good path of going forward. But then on that path where I knew the gym and exercise was working for me, that's when it becomes important to make sure you put more tools in your tool belt. Because if something happens like with me recently, I was snapped two ligaments in my ankle and I can't exercise. I need other things to go to so I don't spiral down and get too caught up in myself. So like things like breath work and meditation and writing. But the big thing I love to do now is one thing I used to be scared to do is observe my thoughts. Like I absolutely love just sitting with my thoughts. I like every single day, I have a moment during the day where I just have this calling within me. It's like you need to just be with your thoughts. And I always go, not always, but I attempt to nearly always go to that calling and be with my thoughts because I feel like we have thoughts for a reason. We're meant to observe them and just to see what comes up.
Sit in silence. And that's something that I did that this morning myself. And it's something like, because sometimes we get so afraid of what's going to come up and why it's coming up and all that negative self-talk, which is our two different brains talking at the same time. But having that as a tool, it's like you're just going to be able to understand yourself more.
Yeah. And like it's when someone first told me about meditation and breath work, I was like, I'm not sitting in the circle and breathing. Like what? I'm
What's
not
this?
doing, yeah. I'm not sitting down and sitting with my thoughts. What are you talking about? And then now like I do it religiously. But it's just being open-minded to it, giving it a go, putting in the practice. And I feel like you never become a master at it. It's something that is still a practice till this day. But by having the open mind and giving it a go, I believe has been a lifesaver for me as well.
Yeah, that's practice is progress. It's not perfection. Uh,
Yeah.
and the breath work, there's so many different types of breath work, but when you go into it, it's something I do religiously myself every day. I
Mm.
try and have one day off because otherwise my lungs just get start
you
purging
need,
all the time.
yeah, need a break.
Yeah. But yeah, it's definitely important as well. And then with with those tools, I believe you're back walking again. I saw on your story after the doctor was saying you couldn't
Yeah.
walk in for like a while.
Yeah, they said I wouldn't be back walking properly for about 12 weeks. And then after 2 weeks, I'm back on my feet, walking around again. Like there is still a bit of restriction there that I can walk normal, if you will. I just be a bit more careful when I plant my foot so it doesn't roll or anything. But I went to the specialist last week and she was super surprised. Like, how are you healing so quick? And I was just like, put all faith to the high above.
That's interesting because I think my brother broke his ankle, I think the same time you did, and my brother's walking as well.
Yeah,
Like
wow.
it's that, and I know this is something that most people that are listening, and people that are watching, it's all about that mindset, right?
100%. It's how you perceive it.
100%. If you perceive it, I'm injured, I can't walk again. Well, that's all you're going to project.
That's why it's so important to do the work and to become aware of yourself more importantly. Because when it first happened, like I happened playing indoor soccer, like I straight away because I went to the mindset, oh, I can't play soccer, oh, I can't go to work, oh, I can't go to the gym, oh, I've got to sit in the house. Like I could have been so negative and focused on all the things that I can't do. But instead, I was like, oh, I have time to do this. Maybe this is a calling for me to observe life and do this and do this and do this. And I just became very creative with the challenge that became in front of me. And I feel like the more you become aware of yourself and go back to like the observation of your own thoughts, the more aware you are to yourself and the more aware you are to be able to see a different perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I still remember when, because I train Muay Thai. I remember the time when I come off a jet ski and I broke my finger and I couldn't train. I was like, oh, like this is annoying, but I was like, I'm still going to train, but I'm just not going to use that hand. And I had that belief that I could still exercise, but just not use that part of my body.
What did you have to practice to get that belief?
What did I have to? That's a good question. What did I have to practice? I think it's just knowing that I can heal, like knowing that like not knowing like this is only going to be for a short period of time until I'm going to be able to do it. And then I end up going to see an what do they call, osteopath or something, and there's a rehabilitation on my hand, and that took a few weeks. And then for me, I've got no muscle in both my hands, so the muscle that normal people have, I don't have it. And having that reassurance and practicing and meditation really allowed me to, and having the positive thoughts, like it's going to heal, it's only just a short thing. Whereas I know there's things out there that are out of our control, and unfortunately we can't control it. Just like before when I said to you, before we jumped on the podcast, I was like, today wasn't the best, but I can't control that. It's out of my control. So
Exactly right. And be able to see things for the long term as well. Because that just helps you get out of your head and become more acceptance to the situation within itself. I feel like acceptance is a big piece, no matter what it is that comes up, especially with challenges.
massive acceptance is huge in every aspect of your life. Be able
Yeah.
to accept it and be able to let it go and not use it as a way to make excuses in your life. And the one piece is like also ownership of that. Okay, look, I'm injured. I can't do what I want to do, but if I can do something else differently, well, then I'm going to do that.
Why? I want to put a question out there, probably for both of us. Like, why do we think men struggle with acceptance?
Oh,
The reason I ask that question is because I see a lot of men, and I've definitely been this person in the past. Like, if something happens, I was so quick to blame someone else and just brush off the responsibility where I have to process acceptance in the first place. Like, I try and brush off that responsibility straight away. And I feel like a lot of men could potentially relate to that.
I think it's just they don't look at them like they acceptance like I'm like that's taken me a long time to accept, and I know you and me both, it's definitely ingrained, but I think it's just the way society brings us up as men.
Yeah.
Like we're meant to be this tough individual, we're meant to do this and this, and no emotions are going to affect us, we're going to keep going. But sometimes, yes, I know there's some instances where we need to express our emotions but not sit in it, and the acceptance piece comes from, I think, other people's beliefs and accepting where you like who you are and like your just the role you take in life.
Makes a lot of sense.
It does, man. Like it's just yeah, for to be accepted as a man and not as a boy, it's really like that's something that I'm so passionate in the work that we do, the men's work that we do, because it drives me nuts to see people out there that are still being boys.
100%. And the desperation or the lengths of desperation they go to for acceptance. But the acts they do to get the acceptance isn't something that truly aligns with their core values.
No, and it's so sad to see. Like I know like we when we're younger we have all that stuff we until you get to a stage in life where you realize like what it is you need to do, and it's that ownership piece as well. It's like owning up to like your own lessons that you've made, and you can't blame everyone else for it, because at the end of the day you're the projection of that lesson.
Yeah, 100%.
Whatever is happening in your life is happening through you.
Yeah.
So
But like, how easy is it though to just play the victim? Like, no, Kyle, that's you, not me. That's you.
no, what are you doing?
You know what I mean? Like, but that's why people get so caught up, because it's so easy to step back in that. I know I have moments where I can't step back into that, but it's having the awareness to be like, no, Ryan, fucking pull yourself out of this mindset right now and become aware and become, assured of what's going on. But it is so easy to play the victim. And I feel like in today's world, this might be a hot topic. It's somewhat promoted to be in the victim mindset, because I see so much stuff out there on social media, on the news, whatever it is, just feeding into people having the victim mindset and not taking accountability or responsibility for their own actions.
Yeah, and it's that what is that it's like that trauma reborn. It's like blame everyone else and not look at yourself and realize that you're the cause of the problems.
Yeah.
And it's really, I see it, and I think it's like I see it in like society when I'm seeing things like going around. Like I love people watching, so I'm just like, yeah, I don't agree with it, but at the same time, like that's their journey. Like they'll get to a spot in their life where they realize that they need to do something about it. And when we start this journey, we want everyone to come along for the ride.
Yeah.
Try and get everyone to come along. And the biggest lesson I've learned is to just do your thing. And then those who want to change, those who want to come along on the journey, they'll come to you.
That's the beautiful thing about having something like a podcast. You're able to put that information out there, that resources out there. And then when that person is ready to come, they'll come. And that way, because I know with myself, when I was addicted to drugs, the more people that told me to quit drugs, maybe abuse drugs even harder, like it pushed me away from what the people actually wanted me to do. But until I came to my own conclusion that I wanted to quit, that's when I was like, cool, I'll make the decision now. And I went to those people and seek guidance. So that's something I've got to remind myself with, because I'm very passionate about mental health and mindset. I know you are too. I'm just like, I want to help everyone. It's
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I've got to remind myself, when I was in that moment in my life, the more people were pushy on me, push me away. So just having the information there and then just let them know I'm available for whenever they're ready.
I've learned that just through family and friends, and especially family in particular. That's the biggest one. And all you can do is just give them the love you need from the sidelines, and then let them make that decision on their own. And
Yeah.
as soon as I've done that, like I'm so grateful that my two brothers are now like starting their journey. So it's good to see them. Like it's beautiful to see.
Yeah. And I feel like everyone's path has to go for the length that it's planned to be, meaning there's an experience awaiting for them that they need to experience for them to reach that next stage of life. So if you pull them out of it too soon, they may not get a valuable lesson that is already planned for them that they have to receive. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. And that's why this life we're in, it's like we all take lessons from it, whether you want to see them as lessons, see them as mistakes, or see them as curses, whatever you want to call it. Your path, you're here for a reason. And whether you found that or not, you'll find it. once you found it, you'll realize like the calling in your life, everything you're doing in your life comes from a place of abundance and love. Because when you speak to people like yourself, and I have people in my around my circle connections I made, I'm like, I envisioned this, but a long time ago. Now it's coming to fruition now.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
crazy.
And that's the power of doing things like visualization and actually bringing things to fruition. I think it's so powerful when we can actually see things in the mind. Like if you think about this microphone right there, this was an idea in someone's mind.
Yeah.
Now it's manifest into this thing. Now I'm talking to you. I'm like 2.5 hours away from each other. It's like this, like, can you imagine me and you sitting around the campfire 1,000 years ago? And I was like, Kyle, I'm going to create a microphone. And from a 2.5 hour drive distance, we're going to talk to each other live on video. You'd have been like, you are crazy.
What are you talking about, mate? Like,
That's why I love, like you said, people watching. I love doing that, but I love observing the world because most of the things that you see that are man-made were never there before. It all came from an idea and a vision that which put that in place. Like even my back fence, like a year and a half ago, all this whole land here was just dirt. Now my house is on it. That was an idea in someone's mind that brought that to fruition. And it's like if all of these things throughout the world have been invented, like Apple, iMac, iPhones, like all of this crazy technology. Why wouldn't something that you envision, why wouldn't that come into fruition if you put the action behind it? It's like, look at the things that have already been created. That's just should just show the possibilities of the human potential.
100%. And the thing that plays out for people, and I know for me, for example, it's the unconscious beliefs. It's the beliefs that you don't see, because we've got a conscious brain and an unconscious brain, and 95% of the unconscious brain is 95% of negative feelings, experiences. So you may not believe it. That's because your unconscious brain is thinking that. But when you can shift that by just picturing it, like the idea in your head, and just manifesting, as they call it.
Yeah.
But you've got to put the action in place in order to happen.
100%. And it's bloody hard.
It's hard, man. It's
Yeah.
hard, man. Yeah,
Like
it's like, oh, do I commit? I'm getting these moments now. It's like, do I even with doing these episodes? I'm like, shit. Do I want to commit? Do I want to do this, and that? And I'm like, I see this pattern playing out in my life where I'm like, why does this keep happening? And there's an underlying cause for it, and I'm determined to work out what the hell it is, because I want to get rid of it, because it's just really annoying me. But it's like, I know that there's a reason for it, but it's like, if I can just do the small steps, little action steps here and there, I know it's going to eventuate into this transformation piece.
Yeah, exactly. It's been able to break it down or reverse engineer in that sense. Like, because for myself, I have big visions. They're fucking scared. It scares me. Yeah, it honestly scares me because I'm like, the person I've got to become to do that. It's like there's a lot of growth that has to be done to get there. There's a lot of uncertainty, and uncertainty is something that can play heavy on the mind. So when I think of my vision and I think where I want to go or where I am going, it frightens me a bit. But I also have the perspective if there's not a level of stress to it, then I'm not aiming high enough in the first place. Because I had the realization, I think this was about a year ago, a year and a half ago. I was just smashing goals left, right, and center. And then I sat there with a mentor and he goes, it's because your goals aren't big enough. So you're playing small. I was like, you're right. But that realization was so good because now I can set goals which I can achieve to help with momentum and motivation, then set ones that are bigger, that are scary, but then will make me grow into that person that has to achieve that, which in extent is only going to grow me as a person. And it's that constant battle with the fear of doing it, but just still finding the way to do it anyway.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on that one. Like, there's some shit that I envision for myself, and I'm like, and the universe is testing me in ways that I never thought possible. And it's like, fuck, that scares the shit out of me. You're gonna have to go do that. And it's like my nervous system's just like, oh, I just need to breathe. And it's that fear. It's like, and in order to become that person, you don't know what's gonna happen, whether it's like how it's gonna play out in any relationship, your life, and everything else in between. It's like you want it, but it's like, what's gonna happen when that happens?
Exactly right. When I was 20 years old, I first got into working with mental health and started pursuing my passion, I was scared. So I was like, I've literally just quit drugs. I'm literally still feeling depressed and anxious. And now I'm going to go help people. I've had no qualifications. I had no experience. And now I'm working full time in this industry. And I'm like, I am shit scared. I don't know what to do or what to expect. But then just taking those steps has brought me to where I am today. Like having that fear, but just utilizing the people around me, utilizing the supports, but then also becoming more aware of myself, like we touched on before, just so I can become in tune with myself and understand what I want. And I think the more you know yourself, the better.
Yeah, and that comes with that's a journey within.
Mm.
It's not it's a deep, deep journey within.
Yeah, and I have to have a lot of spiritual awakenings along this journey through deep meditations. I've had quite a few out of body, different lives, deaths, like things that if I mentioned 5 years ago, I'd be like that doesn't make
Well,
sense. But now I'm experiencing like things through meditation. Now I'm like, I'm going to different universes. Like I've literally had a meditation where I had to kill the old version of me in that meditation. And doing things like that has been on the journey of me becoming who I am, but making sure that I still push myself out of the comfort zones because that's when I find out who I am more. Because the more uncomfortable I am, the more I find what my limiting unconscious beliefs are.
100%. And that even like myself, I know that I've gone through different processes and gone through all the way back to like to past generations, generational stuff. And I'm like, that is why I do this and this in my life. And it's not only I can see it clearly, but I can feel it in my body. So it's
It's like a knowing.
yeah, it's a knowing. Like I can I know, and now I've been through these, and I said this to shout out to Stableman, um, who runs a podcast. I said this to him, like it's knowing what you're here to do, and that's why that stuff comes up unconsciously, and it's it's not being afraid of it, but embracing it.
How did you? Oh, sorry.
No, because we can either embrace it or we can shy away from it.
How did you overcome the fear of knowing your purpose? Because I know the word purpose can be quite daunting for a lot of people if they feel like they haven't discovered it. Like, what was that process like for yourself?
The fear discovering my purpose. Well, I knew I had a deep knowing that it was there. Um, the thing that unlocked it for me was doing Espen Quantum Advanced, which allowed me to really understand it. And the fear of knowing it and actually actioning it, that scared the shit out of me.
Yeah.
And like I guess I've grown so much in the space of 2 years, and my purpose is always changing. But at the same thing, it comes back. I wouldn't say it's changing, but it's like it's being stronger and stronger and stronger in my belief system, in my body, and in what I'm here to do. And that's to just it comes down to love, brother. Like it just comes down to love of doing what feels right to you. And that's why I've got this podcast, because whatever we set our mind to, whatever we experience, we can be who we want to be in our life. It's just when you have the right people, the right attitude, and you work on yourself, you can do whatever the fuck you want to do.
Facts.
And that's like yes, I haven't gotten to the point where I want to be at, but I know that the steps I'm taking in my life right now, it's the perfect timing. And it's still a journey. Like life is going to throw curveballs at you, like it's done, and it's all about just taking little steps to keep improving. And at the moment, I'm trying to push myself a lot. Like I wouldn't say push myself, but it's like allowing myself to be in uncomfortable situations even more, because I know that I've sort of lacked that in the last few months, and I'm like trying to push myself in those situations because I know that on the other side of that is just massive growth.
Key word to use just then was allowing. When
Yeah,
we allow things, we're ridding resistance.
yeah. When we allow it, and then when we trust it, and that's a big thing for men, is we sometimes don't trust it, and we don't allow it, and that's what plays this circle in your life, is when you're not trusting certain things, not allowing certain things to come up in your life. Well, that's why it's keeps playing out.
Yeah, 100%. Especially when it comes back to like purpose as well, because you still gotta fulfill it despite the opinions of other people. Like when I first started my journey, before I even worked in mental health and doing what I'm doing now, I started a page called Mental Health Experience. So if you follow my One Talk page, it used to be called Mental Health Experience when I first started, but I changed the name. But I remember it was like June 2018. I started that page, and I didn't know anyone in my circle whatsoever that was speaking up about feelings, thoughts, emotions. I was like shit scared to go on social media and start talking about this, considering like if you knew the person I was before I started posting on social media, or the perception of who I was before then. And then when I first started, I was so caught up in my own head about the opinions of other people, more so than I was actually bringing the value that I wanted to bring. But that once I realized, when I started pursuing my passion, I feel like everyone around me could just energetically feel how authentic it was from me. I had no judgment in the first place. I was just so caught up in my own mind that people were going to judge me and think I'm strange for doing this. But I just wanted to touch on that because, if you do have a purpose, if you do have something that you feel called to do, don't let the opinions of other people stop you from doing it.
That's massive, and that's a piece that I gave your audience on the podcast, is because it's something that we all deal with, and it's something that comes up in every aspect of our life, whether we get older, whether we get young, whether we're younger, and it's something that keeps playing out.
Especially till to this day, bro. Like even like if
100%.
I post a video on Instagram, still to this day, and it's something that I have like a strong belief in, I want to put my stake in the ground behind it. I still think like what have I hurt this person's feelings by posting this? Like what
Yeah,
about this? What about this? What about this? And I'm like, no, this is my message. I still got to put it out there. It's not like I'm uploading the video that's like a hate speech. But
yeah.
it's like not every single person, not all 8 billion people in the world are going to relate to your message in the first place. So I still have that battle to this day of putting certain posts up, but I make sure I challenge myself and do it anyway.
It's that, yeah, that's something I did it recently on my socials, and it's like you're either going to attract or repel those people, because if you're posting something that's they don't like, it's a trigger for them.
Yeah.
Trigger for them to work on that shit internally. And I'm dealing with it myself, brother. Like I'm doing even doing this
Yeah.
is like bringing up some stuff in me that I never thought would bring up. I'm like, oh, what are people going to say? All this, all the belief systems. But at the end of the day, I know this is something I enjoy, so it lights me up. And it's always a fun game when you can push yourself out of that mindset of just doing it anyways. And that's my whole purpose, is to like go and do what feels right to you. And if you don't know what it feels right, well then I would recommend maybe just attend some personal development events and understand, like, you'll be able to work out what it is that's for you.
Yeah. Was when you first started your journey, was there one book that you read that convinced you to begin the journey of personal development? Was like one book that you read and you're like, I need to go even deeper?
I've read so many books, listened to so many books. Still reading so many books. Well, one book in particular. Not really. Like I think I've always I've ever since I've left high school, I've always been intrigued in learning more. Like I miss school so much because of the learning aspect. I've always loved it. So ever since leaving high school, I've always done different things. But this inner work that I'm doing, like in the last couple, it's only been a couple of years now. The book that I really, really actually aligned with me, which I've actually, it's probably one of the most, I guess it's one of the most practical books that I've read. And I thank my friend Amber for giving it to me for my 30th birthday, which I read overseas. It's called, I go on mind blank now. The conscious, I literally go on mind blank.
I have that heap, especially when you've read so many books.
Yeah, I'm just trying to. Oh, it's called the superconscious mind by Chris Duncan.
I'll check that out.
Oh, it's called You're Not Broken. You're Not Broken by Chris Duncan.
Yeah.
and it's about tapping into the superconscious, and it gives you practical steps, and it's like allowing yourself to have those steps and those processes to give the life that you want, like manifesting. That's probably the one book that I feel called, because it's something that's not so much when I started my personal development journey, but it's something that I can reflect on and look back and be like, oh, that makes sense. Or there's The Miracle Morning, which is quite a powerful book. Just hearing the story, and I was like, oh, okay, that put my life in perspective. There's so many books, like for people that are in the personal development space, there's so many books you can read that's going to help you do it. The Power of Now.
Yeah.
That's
It's an
like
amazing book.
Yeah. I listen to it and I'm like, oh, there's no better time than now.
Yeah. The great thing about 2023, like we've never had a time where information is so accessible. Like we can have anything at the fingertips. And that's why I love living in this era. That's why I love living in the present right now, because after this podcast, I can literally Google anything I want and have it within seconds, and then educate myself on that. And then start practicing that, and then start seeing results from that. And it's like, it's so cool to be where we are today and have all these resources and being on that journey, just to I'll say be on that self-discovery journey.
Yeah. What would you say is the number one book that you used to when you started your personal development journey that really hit home?
For me, I'll say there's two, but the one that sticks out the most was The Way of the Superior Man by David Dida.
Yeah.
Yeah, that book. Because my favorite rapper, or one of my two favorite rappers, is Nipsey Hussle, and he was talking in the interview, and he just said the way the superior man changed his life. And before I listened to that book, I never read the book. I never listened to a book. I was never interested in books. And then I got The Way the Superior Man, and I was like, I need more. I need more information. And then that's when I just spiraled in so many books and audio books, physical books, and my whole indulgence of just learning more.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I've listened to it. I might, yeah, because I've like you get like people recommend all these books too, but it's just like finding the time to like read it. And The Way of Superior Man I have listened to, but I think if I read it and listen to it again, I'll get so much more value from it. Like they always say, like when you read it twice, you get much more learnings.
Yeah, The Way of Superior Man, I think I've listened to it on 3 different occasions over the last 4 years or 5 years. So like at different stages in my life, I take a different message from it.
Very true. And that's why I mean, like, that's why when we go to like events or personal development things, or we learn new things, if we've read it once, we'll take another lesson the next time. The next time we're taking a lesson, we'll learn something different. And that's why I love this work, because even though you may go to an event, you still learn something different, or it might integrate into something that you've done already or you're going to be doing.
And especially like if you go to a 3-day event, right? And your first time going, the amount of information you're consuming, your subconscious mind is only going to adapt what it believes to be important or relevant at the time for it to actually ingrain and start working on. Then 4 years later, you go to the same 3-day event with the same information, the same trainer, the same stuff. You're going to interpret it completely differently. And your brain's going to be at a different point where it's going to grab onto different things than it did the first time, because you're at a different point in your life.
Yeah, 100%. And they say, what's that? I think our brain consumes 80,000 bits of information every second or something.
Yeah.
I think that's what it is. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I believe that's right.
Yeah, I've just learned it from a mentor. So it's fascinating. It still blows my mind, like how much, and I love stuff to do with mindset and the brain, just learning, because we are so powerful as human beings. It's just some people haven't seen it yet or haven't felt it.
How do you feel like people can see the power they have within them?
When other people see it in them. That's something that I've only learned. It's true, man. Like at the end of
It's
the day,
100%.
yeah, you're not gonna see the power you have until someone else brings it up. And like I've done so much work, and it's like I did an event. Shout out to my brother James Ballog, in June or July, and there was just a 3-day event, and the process it went through, it was like a transmission piece for me, and I didn't see it until someone else brought it to my attention, and I just broke. I'm just like, oh, that makes sense. Like, and they said to me, like, no one's going to see it unless people see it in you. And all my life, I'm just looking back at my life and my teenage years, my young adult years, and it's like I've had that in me, but I've never really seen it until that moment.
Especially because we're trying to process so many things, and people can just see from the outside, like you really got that, you're already doing that, you already have the characteristics of that. And that's why I love it when people believe in me, especially the people around me. Like I feel like that's one of the things that motivates me the most is when people believe in me. Like I feel like I'm unstoppable.
Yeah, and when you get like slight messages here and there, it's like so, and it's like it's knowing that you have the right people in your life. When you get people that are messaging you and saying to you, believe in you, keep going, it's like, yeah, they're the right people.
100%. Like when I was in my room shaking with anxiety, when my best friend was coming over, he'd still come in the room, like, bro, come on the balcony and have a cigarette and a coffee. It's like he'll still get me out the room because at the time I smoked cigarettes. But he still get me out the room because he believed in me. He's like, bro, come on. And then he'll come back over a couple of days later. What are you doing? Get out the room. And then that just kept happening to a point where I just stopped staying in the room. So he was going to come over and get me out. But then obviously he saw that power within me in the first place that I could get out the room. But
Yeah.
at the moment, I was just too caught up in myself where I didn't see it.
Yeah, I guess, but the strongest belief though is in yourself.
Yeah.
Like that's the strongest. If you, and even that comes back to that when with the opinions, if you believe in it, then you'll achieve it. Just a matter of having a strong belief system in yourself. And some belief systems may be stronger than others. It's a story we tell ourselves, and I know that I'm still working on that shit myself. So,
Yeah.
and it's a never ending cycle.
Yeah, I used to have a unhealthy relationship with that because I used to like love people doubting me. Like I used to feed off it, and
Oh,
I used to love it. Like it used to be something that would thrive me. Like I'd seek it. Like I want people to doubt me so I can prove them wrong. But what I realized on that journey was the more I was proving other people wrong, was the more I was actually fulfilling them than I was fulfilling myself.
yeah,
Because
man.
it was actually distracting me from my direction I was meant to go. Because I would step aside from what I was meant to do just to prove this person wrong is something that didn't even matter, like something that doesn't even add value to my life. But I wanted to prove them wrong. But I used to get so caught up in that. I still do now sometimes.
Yeah,
Like if someone doubts me, I use it for motivation anyway because I like to perceive it that way. But it's making sure that it doesn't direct me off my path and then make sure it doesn't consume me like it used to.
man, that was something that's I'm still learning and like it's like when you come back to that humbleness and that stuff, where it's like if you know internally, you can believe you can do it and not prove someone wrong. It's an ego thing, right? It's like an
Yeah.
ego thing, and it's and like I know, like man, we still our ego still plays a part. That's never gonna change, but it's just being aware of it when it
Yeah.
happens.
This is a bit off topic, but I'd like to ask you a question if I can.
Yeah, of course, brother.
I'd like to just hear your insight and your perspective of what your answer is to this question. But what do you feel like is the purpose of life? Like, why are we here? Like, why are we as humans like on this earth? Like, why are we floating through space? Why are we in the galaxy? Why are we on Zoom right now talking? Why are we offering value to other people? Why is there heinous things in this world? Like, why is there so much? Like, why is all this happening? Why do you believe that?
Oh,
It's a loaded question. It's a
that's a
loaded,
really
but
open-ended question, mate.
I love. I just really love like just yeah, because it's something that I've been thinking about deeply at the moment. I'm like, why is this happening?
That's fucking really deep.
Yeah, change the course of the podcast. We might need a second episode.
Yeah, yeah, we'll definitely do a second one for sure. Why are we here? It's a good. Why are we here in this exact moment?
There's no right or wrong answer. I just want to know
No,
your opinion.
because why are we not here? There's a reason why we're here, and I'm gonna be vulnerable. We are here to live this experience. The life that we live is beautiful, and we get to live it. You could be buried 6 feet under and not live to your potential. And when you are aware that you're going to die eventually, you've got to make the most of what you have. Because this moment, for those that are listening and watching, you can either make it a defining moment to do something to support your life, do something that's going to allow you to be a better person. Because ask yourself the same question. Why are you here? Why is it you go to work? Why is it you spend time with the family? Why is it you make money? Why is it you do the things you do in every second that you're here? Just ask yourself that question, because I'm sure you reflect and you may even uncover your purpose in that same situation.
Ask yourself quality questions, you get quality answers.
And you get quality results with those answers. Mm-hmm. The more questions you ask, the more answers you receive. And that was a beautiful end, man. Like, that was awesome. And what would I'll put it back on you. Like, why do you think we're here?
A lot of it would relate to what you said, but just to take it a bit further, I do believe that there is something past this life, just for like spiritual experiences I've had. And lately with my connection to God, which has been quite interesting as of late as well. So I feel like there is something past this life. So I feel like everything that we do on this earth relates to what you said, purely because this is my belief, is that it's going to be the result on where we go after this.
Yeah, whatever you do after this life but whatever you leave in this life is going to be an impact that you may not even know right now.
Yeah, and that's what inspires me to keep doing good.
Yeah, man.
And keep spreading love, like every single day and every moment. Like if someone road rages me on the road, give me the finger. I just want to send them love back. Like I just want to spread I just want to spread as much good into the world as possible, as much love into the world as possible, like as much light. Like it burns me to even like trying to explain it. Like I feel like that's my purpose in life. And I feel like it's because I know after this, it's going to push me towards whatever is going to be past this life. But I'm still very grateful for each moment. I like to practice presence a lot as well. But yeah, I feel like this life is just for us to experience, to see what is the next stage.
Yeah, and it comes back to leaving a legacy.
Yeah.
It's like, what I'm not going to be here, so what can I do that's going to give myself the reassurance that I've done good, and it's just always about giving love. And it comes back, it's the number one way we can either love. Everything comes back down to love.
Yeah.
And we are here to live.
Like you said, we're here for a reason.
Yeah, we are here for a reason, and some people may have or may have not found it. That is okay.
100%.
Because you will find it.
And like we said before, you just got to stay in that journey.
And the journey of self-discovery and self-mastery. Never get to that. Yeah, it's a journey in itself. Well, with that, I wanted to thank you again for coming on.
Thank you, bro.
Such a beautiful way to spend the evening. And where can people find you? Like, what's your social tags? What's your everything else in between?
The best place just to go to is Instagram. So at OneTalk _. So ONETALK _. And from there, you just find everything else about me. So feel free to reach out if you want a conversation or a chat or anything. But I just want to say thanks for having me on, brother. I feel like me and you could chat for hours. I feel like we could be sitting here for 6 hours talking. But I just want to say thank you for inviting me to come on. It's been a pleasure.
Awesome, man. Thanks for coming on. And again, guys, to be podcast, like, share, comment your greatest takeaways from today's episode. And I love the feedback as well. Open to feedback. Thanks again, brother. Speak soon.
Cheers, bro.